Hello, welcome to Chapter 3 Podcast, the show for readers of science fiction, fantasy, and romance. This is Season 1, Episode 11. I'm Bethany, your host, and joining me tonight are YouTubers Jen from The Book Refuge and Amanda from The Naughty Librarian. And tonight we're going to be talking about one of our favorite authors for historical romance with a side of comedy, Tessa Dare. If you want to support the podcast and get early access to episodes and exciting bonus content from all of our guests, check out our Patreon linked in the show notes. And a big thank you to our patrons and special shout out to our world expanding patron, Trina. Your support makes this possible. But before our conversation today, it's time for On My Radar, where I share recent or upcoming book releases in science fiction, fantasy, and romance that I'm excited about, and then our guests will have the opportunity to share one as well. The books for today's episode will be released between February 17th and March 2nd, 2021, with the exception of the guest recommendations, which may include any upcoming release. We have one release coming out on February 18th. This is Play of Shadows by Sebastian de Castell, the first book in a new swashbuckling fantasy series with swordplay, magic, intrigue, and friendship stronger than iron. Then on February 23rd, we're getting two books that I want to highlight. Waiting for a Scot Like You by Eva Lee is the final book in a series of historical romances inspired by 80s teen movies. Yes, really, they're super fun. This one is a quite steamy take on Ferris Bueller's Day Off with nods to Footloose as well as Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It is quite a romp following a merry widow and a stoic major. Then A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth has me very intrigued. It's a debut YA fantasy that's been pitched as The Cruel Prince meets City of Bones in a thrilling urban fantasy set in the magical underworld of Toronto that follows a queer cast of characters racing to stop a serial killer whose crimes could expose the hidden world of fairies to humans. Everything about this one sounds amazing, so really excited to check that out. Then finally on March 2nd, we're getting three books I'm excited about. In the Quick by Kate Hope Day is a sci-fi novel in the tradition of Station 11 and The Martian, where a young, ambitious female astronaut's life is upended by a fiery love affair that threatens the rescue of a lost crew. Then The Conductors by Nicole Glover is the first book in a new series that is historical fantasy meets whodunit in post-Civil War Philadelphia. The main character is a magic user and a former conductor on the Underground Railroad who now solves crimes. Looks really interesting. And then lastly, one I've been highly anticipating, A Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martin is the conclusion to a sci-fi duology that began with a memory called Empire. It follows a new diplomat from a small outpost coming to the capital city of a galactic empire and navigating court intrigue and danger. The first book ended with quite a twist. I'm very excited to see where the second book is going to go. With that said, please join me in welcoming Jen and Amanda to the show. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Yay! Happy to be here.
You guys are perfect for talking Tessa Dare. So if you want to briefly introduce yourselves to our listeners, let them know where they can find you and kind of what you do, why you're on tonight specifically, and share your pick for an exciting upcoming release.
I'm Jen from the Book Refuge. I'm the Book Refuge on pretty much every platform, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok even, but we won't point that out too strongly. I'm just getting my feet under me for that. Yeah, I am on here because I read romance. I mostly focus on romance I started with historical, then I've read more contemporary. Now I read darker as well as erotic romance. I've just put that out there. I read pretty much all kinds of romance. If there's banging in it, I want to read it. This is a thing. This is true. This kind of, I mean, I don't know. It's the truth, guys. It's the truth. A couple of books that I'm really excited for. This was hard to choose, but I am a basic white girl, and I'm very excited for A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, and I don't care who knows it. I am so excited. She did an Instagram live with her husband, and she held up the size of that book, and I about dropped down dead. I was like, it's so beautiful. I just want it in my life. And then one that comes out on February 16th. And then another one I really want to mention because the first one stunned me, is The Intimacy Experiment by Rosie Danon. It's the follow-up to The Roommate that comes out April. I can't remember. Sorry, I didn't write it down by that one. But I'm very excited for that one because I thought The Roommate did some really amazing things. And I'm excited to see what the intimacy experiment will do as well. It's about a rabbi and a porn star. So
Nice.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Nice.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda. You can find me on YouTube as the Naughty Librarian. I mean, if this is a Tessa Dare podcast and you guys are here, you probably already know that. That's kind of been my thing now, is that I really like Tessa Dare.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find me other places. I'm sure if you search Naughty Librarian, I'll come up, but I'm technically Amanda Venture on other platforms like Twitter and Instagram, but it's all me. And yeah, I read all kinds of stuff. The Naughty Librarian is kind of a node to my love of romance. I like spicy books, like sometimes you just want a smutty delight. I
Yeah,
even
you
have
do.
buttons. I got buttons made that say smutty delights. And if like
my
someone,
God.
I just carry them
I
with
have
me.
one.
That's
You
amazing.
do?
I won a giveaway you did.
Oh yeah.
So I have one.
Nice. But I carry them with me because sometimes, like very rarely, not all the time, but someone would be like, "Oh, are you the Naughty Librarian?" I'm like, "Yes, I am. Do you want a button?" So like, it's like my prize.
I love it.
So anyway, smutty delights are my thing. I also read a lot of fantasy. I've been like kind of dipping my toes into sci-fi. I'm much more of a
Yeah.
magic over technology kind of girl, if I'm being honest with myself. But books, I'm just like looking at like all of the books I pre-ordered this year, which is very many.
Relatable.
The earliest book that's coming out just next Tuesday, the 26th, well, from when we're filming this, January 26th, is Highland Treasure. This is the latest release in the Highland Bride series by Lindsay Sands. Now, this series, it's very campy, I will say. It's just basically like hot guys in kilts doing Scottish stuff, and then a feisty lady, and then they bang it out, and everyone has a murder mystery. No matter what, all of the books of the series are the exact same plot. Seriously, they're all the same plot. They all have a murder mystery and Scottish guys, and it's just like the same over and over, but it's okay because I like it.
You know what you're getting.
Yeah, I've used the analogy that it's like a bag of mini Snickers. It's like every mini Snickers you eat is exactly the same, but it's okay because you like mini Snickers.
Because you want them
There you
still.
go.
Yeah, I love that.
And
That's
then
awesome.
one book I just want to like give a shout out to because I feel like it's under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
This is coming out in August. It's called Sisters of Reckoning. This is the sequel to The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. It is a really underrated book.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with The Good Luck Girls. I highly recommend. It is a fantasy western, and it's technically YA, but it's a crossover YA. I'd say, I'm a grown-ass adult, and I was captivated.
I remember hearing you talk about it and being like, "What is this book?"
So good.
It's so good. It's a sleeper hit.
I like desperately want Netflix to pick it up and turn it into a show.
Ooh.
It would be so good.
It'd be like
It's
kind
very
of a Westworld, but like
it's very, very dark. Like they have like there's like wraiths in the forest that will like eat you. Like it, and then they have magical tattoos that like brand you as like it's kind of like working with like, people got branded in the Western era. Like, for example, like a runaway slave might have been branded. These people also get branded, so now they're property. So it goes into like deeper issues as well, and like sisterhood and
but they also like take down the patriarchy and and like rob a bank. It's great.
They also become bank robbers. I was like saving that nugget, but like it's a really, really good book, and the sequel's coming out. I already have it pre-ordered. I pre-ordered it back in 2020. Like I'm waiting a long time for it, but yeah, it's coming out. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway.
Yes. Yeah, everybody go read Good Luck Girls. All the books are always all listed in the show notes if anybody's wondering about any of them, so that'll be good. Okay, so tonight we want to talk about Tessa Dare, and I probably started reading I started reading Tessa Dare actually because of Amanda.
Woo! That is the number one thing people say to me. It's just like, I read Tessa Dare because of you. And I was like, probably.
Well, she's so great. And so I
Yes.
wanted to talk a little bit about like what she does, places to start, thoughts about some of her books. Like we can just chat. We have like a while.
Sure.
But I think for me, what's great about her books is she's like the queen of the historical romantic comedy. Her books are so
Yes.
funny. Like they make me laugh, but they also have great romance and characters, and they're just fantastic. So I would love to hear from you guys. Maybe, okay, so maybe this is a good place to start. What book did you read of hers first, if you remember?
Mhm.
What got you into reading her? The first book that I read from her was The Duchess Deal, which
Yeah.
I still love. It's still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read it, it's so great. I love A Marriage of Convenience plot, and it's just so good. But yeah, that was where I started and then kind of went from there. And I still have more to read. I have not read nearly as
Yeah.
many of her books as Amanda has, but I continue to love most of the books I read from her.
Yeah.
They're great.
I want to hear what Amanda read first because.
Mhm.
Surprisingly, also the Duchess deal.
Okay, well, so did I. Okay, great. Okay.
Okay,
I thought you'd have a different answer than that, so.
we're triplets. We're killing it. I'd like it. No, I read the Duchess deal. I remember it was summer, and I got it randomly. There's this bookstore. I think it's like fairly internet famous called the Ripped Bodice out here
Yes.
in Los Angeles. And I went there and I was looking at the events they were going to have. And they were having Tessa Dare come in for a signing. And they were like, I'm like, oh, what's this book about? And they're like, just read it. And I was like, okay. And I was like, oh my God. And then I read like 5 Tessa Dare books in a row.
Yeah.
And then I went to the signing. Okay, I'm just taking this over for a second
No,
because I'm
go.
such a
No,
nerd.
go.
Go.
Tell.
So I just read like at least 5 or 6 Tessa Dare books in a row, and then I went to the signing and I had bought like all of the books, even ones I hadn't read yet. So I had like 15 books. And I was there and I got there early and I was like, I'm sorry, I have so many books. And she's like, it's okay. And I was talking to her and I was like, I'm trying to be cool, but like I couldn't. And like I was going to a party afterwards, so I had like a bag of wine. Well, like it was a bottle in a bag. Like I wasn't just carrying a loose bag of wine, but I had like a couple bottles in there, and it was a wine I really like and recommend. So I was like, "Would you like some wine?" And I gave her a bottle, like a weirdo. And she's like, "Oh, well, thank you." And I was like, "Oh God, oh God." And I was just like, I'm just gonna have to stick with this. I'm just gonna lean into the crazy because I mean, as far as crazy fans go, giving her wine and saying I like your books a lot is pretty benign. So
Yeah.
that's really started the journey.
That is hilarious. That
I
I'll tell
love
okay,
it.
this is totally random side tangent, but the thing I'm most jealous about the two of you is pre-COVID, all of the author events you were able to go to. Like
Oh, yeah.
those are vlogs and stuff I always watch of both of yours, and I'm just like, I'm so envious because I live in Fargo, North Dakota. Let me explain that
Oh
to you.
wow.
And the
Yeah.
closest I've ever got is Sarah J. Maas came to Minneapolis and I had to drive for 4 hours to
Oh
see
wow.
and then there was too many people there, so only 20 of us got to like have her personally sign our books. Everything else
Oh,
was
wow.
online. So that was a sad day. Anyway, sorry, side tangent. But I definitely love like that's something why it got me into watching you guys too, is all of your like author interactions. I was like, I hate you, but I love you. Like,
No.
I'm never gonna do that. And now I have book friends and COVID happened. Like I legit have people I could go stay with and go to book events with, and now
Yeah.
we can't. So anyway,
Yeah.
I know, but it won't be forever. And
that,
also now
that's
you've gotten to have like virtual author
it's true.
interactions,
Yeah,
which is cool. That's
yeah.
cool.
I have Sarah McLean coming up at the end of February, and I want to
Ooh.
like just I
Oh
can't think about it too much, or I'm gonna sweat. But Crystal and I get to interview her. Well, I get
That's
to
Nice.
interview Juliet Cross too for Valentine's Day. So yes, COVID's also been good because I feel like authors have to kind of use the internet now more too. But anyway, sorry, side tangent. That is a
No,
wonderful story about Tessa Dare. That's
it is.
I only have one other story involving the real life Tessa Dare.
oh yeah. Well, you better
Um,
tell us that one.
okay, I forget who sent me the message, but like one of my subscribers went to an author event in New York, and Tessa
Mhm.
Dare was there. And you know, your girl talks about Tessa Dare quite a bit. Like that's kind of my thing on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
And one of my subscribers went and she said, "Oh, I started reading your books as I heard the Naughty Librarian talking about it." And she goes, "Oh, I love her." And I'm like, Tessa Dare knows who I am.
Yeah.
And like,
I love
my
it.
subscriber emailed me, not emailed, like it was like an Instagram message. She's like, "Hey, Tessa Dare was said this." I was like, "Oh my god!"
I would die. Oh my word.
She must have
So,
liked the wine.
yeah, I'm like somewhere on her radar
Right.
that she knows I exist, and I was very excited
Oh
about
my
that.
gosh. Okay. I have to tell one historical romance story because you just reminded me of one that
Mhm.
like made my life. So okay. So I'm like hyperventilating remembering it because I was like, I have had something cool happen to me in my life. So my friend Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life, shout out to her,
Mhm.
love her to death. She ordered me a signed copy of the Duke and I, the re-release.
Oh,
And
cool.
when Julia Quinn was signing it, she
Mhm.
took a picture of herself signing it and put it on Instagram and said, "Oh, when you're signing books and you see one of your favorite bookstagrammers." And she and I was
Ah!
like,
Oh my
I woke
gosh!
up to that at 7 a.m. Like I roll over and took out my phone and I see Julia Quinn in my notifications. I'm like, what
Ah,
the fuck? Okay,
that's
here's my desktop.
wonderful.
And I see this and I started sobbing because I've loved
Oh,
Julia Quinn since I was 15.
oh,
And so I look at this and I was like, this was just a funny thing for her, but like I died.
oh,
So
I love that.
you're
I
like,
love
wow,
it.
someone knows you, even though like, I'm sure it was, well, anyway, that made my life. And
Mhm.
then I got that in the mail for my Christmas gift. And then I cried again for like 10 minutes.
Oh.
I was like, Julia Quinn has touched this book. Oh my God. Anyway, sorry. That was just
I love it.
That's my one thing of like someone knowing what your name is, and it's like if 15-year-old Jen knew someday there'd be something called Instagram, and
Mhm.
Julia
Yeah.
Quinn would use it, because that is
Yeah.
the cool thing. If something cool has come of COVID, it's that other people who wouldn't normally use the internet the way they do are using it now and getting,
Mhm.
like Eloisa James, she's done so many Instagram lives with creators because she just does them on her
Mhm.
lunch break and interacts with people. I'm sorry I
That's
took
cool.
this completely off track, but it's just fascinating. So, okay, should
I
I
should have known, Jen. You do these like long, rambly, chatty
I'm
videos.
so sorry. You want to
Okay.
know the first one I read? How about I tell that? I read the Duchess deal as well.
Mhm.
And um I did read it because I'd seen it in a couple places as good places to start because I've been reading historical romance since I was a teen, but
Mhm.
I would just kind of pick them up whatever. I mostly only read Julia Quinn, Catherine Coulter, and Eloisa James. Those were the three authors I read, and I just kept reading them over and over again, which is fine because they have like 50 books each. So, you know, um, but then I was like, you know what? I want to find some new ones. So I was looking for videos of like historical romance recommendation videos, and at that time there was like 4 of those videos that existed.
Mhm.
Jess had one, and I don't know if it just came up because of your like metadata, Amanda, but I know I found yours where you're talking about Tessa Dare in a video or something. And so I liked the way you talked about her, and I was like, this sounds really fun. So I just ordered a bunch off of I can't remember what site that I used, but I just loved that it captured me right away. It got us right into the action. It got right into some of the smutty times. Because that's the thing, it had the same banter that I love
Mhm.
from a Julia Quinn. Sorry, everything's going to be compared to Julia Quinn. Just y'all know that now because she's my formative historical romance author. She like is in that place. So it had the banter that I appreciated from her stories, but it had a sexier stuff that I was looking for. And then this
Mhm.
had this had Regency Batman in it. So I was
It
like,
did.
okay, I'm here
It
for it.
did, that's true.
I loved it.
And I
Regency
was like,
Batman.
he's
Yeah.
Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so I ended up buying all her books, but then I read them very slowly. So like I binged The Wallflower Wager wasn't out yet. I binged the governess game as well, and then I read well, I guess we're going to talk about that in a minute, like where we like to start with it, but I
Yeah.
started binging a couple and then I was like, wait, I don't want to read these too fast because she doesn't have an endless supply. So then I slowed down, and so I still haven't read her first 2 trilogies, and after hearing some stuff, I may not read the first two trilogies, but I own them because I am a completionist. So I own them, but I might not read them. Okay, I'll breathe now.
Okay. Yeah, Amanda might have thoughts about those ones. I think we can safely say though that the Duchess deal is a very good place to start if you
Yes.
are new to her.
Yes.
I think, yeah, I like other good places to start. I would say like
Romancing the Duke.
when a Scott ties the knot.
Oh, really?
That's probably the fan favorite, I would say. When a Scott Ties the Knot is the one I see most hyped all over. I think it's definitely the fan favorite book.
It's very fun. It's very funny.
Yeah.
And I could see that being a good place to start too, because it works well as a standalone. For those who don't know, so we talked a little bit about the Duchess deal, but when a Scott Ties the Knot is about this girl who doesn't want to get married, so she writes letters to this fake fiance in the army, and then like kills him off so that she like doesn't have to get married, except that then one day this guy shows up and it turns out he's been getting her letters all these years and like pushes her into marrying him. So it's just like really funny. It's great.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Dear Captain Mackenzie, and she just writes these letters and puts them in the mail thinking it's going to go nowhere, and she's just being weird, and she's like, I just like drawing. Here's a picture of a snail. Like, she's just being like quirky and adorable, puts them in the mail, and then she's like, oh no, he died. I'm in mourning. I can't deal with men.
I don't want to marry anyone else. I'm heartbroken.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden Captain Mackenzie shows up at her door like, sup, I'm Captain Mackenzie, and she's like, what now?
Yeah.
Then you have like a plethora of men in kilts doing adorable Scottish things, and it also, these are all like a group of men who came back from war, so it has like some deeper issues there, where like with PTSD and like head injuries and everything. So these men have like other things going on, and I almost thought there was going to be some spin-offs with those characters, but they just never went there.
I guess that would have been interesting. Well, and it's interesting too, because I feel like now I follow Tessa Dare on Twitter, and I feel like I'm slowly learning more about her. Her husband is a doctor, which I don't know, is kind of interesting. But oh, actually, my one interaction with Tessa Dare was on Twitter. Because she posted something like I don't even remember the exact context of it, but something joking about like YA romance, and I was like, so am I supposed to take away from this that you're working on a YA romance? And she was like, no, I'm not. That just seemed like the best comparison to say, but I'm not. I was like, okay. I'm like, should we start a rumor that Tessa Dare is gonna write a YA romance?
What would that even be?
That would make me happy.
I don't.
Yeah.
I like when people graduate from YA to adult. I don't want them to go backwards. Please don't.
Nothing against YA. There's some great YA.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But you can get away with spicier content, definitely, in an adult book.
True. When they're a favorite author who I love their spice, I don't want them to go the other way.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Like, I think there's some great YA romance, a great fantasy with romance in it, but I like it when they escalate, not de-escalate.
Both. I mean, like Jennifer L. Armentrout writes both.
It's true.
She does, but Jennifer L. Armentrout is her own thing. Like, we need a whole other podcast to get into that barrel work.
Fair enough.
That's another one where I feel like I'm an expert. I've read everything.
Really? I've read so little by her. I wouldn't even know. I've read a few things, but
it is so campily delightful. It is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but like it's like so melodramatic that you're like gasp and you just want to eat popcorn and just see what these idiots do next, and it's so delightful.
I love it. Yeah, that's what I've gotten from the things I have read from her. But yeah,
gosh, I love it. I will fight people. I love it. I don't care. It's like people who really, really like Riverdale. We know it's trash. Like, we know. But that's why we like it.
Don't let Leanna hear you say that.
Oh, no. She's heard me say that. She made me watch random episodes, and I'm like, Leanna, what is happening? This is Leanna from Leanna's library. Yeah. Luckily, me and Leanna live fairly close to each other, so like before pandemic times, at least, we used to hang out.
Yeah.
But she made me watch random episodes, and like it was just, I wanted to scream into a pillow. Like I was like, what is going on?
So funny.
I love that stuff though. That's how, that's something of like where I am in my like romance journey is that I like finding really deep, awesome, emotional ones too. But I am so erratic in how I rate books because if you made me laugh and cry and had sexy times, you get a 5 star. So I rate, so that's why I had to introduce the 6 star for my reasoning, Bethany, is because I had to delineate between like, what did I just give a 5 star because it gave me the jollies, and what
Mhm.
because it's actually like a really deeply good book. Because if you make me smile,
It's
cry, laugh,
it's very useful.
yeah. So that delineates for me where I'm like, did I give this a 5 star just because I enjoyed it? Because that's my rule with romance. That's why I
Mhm.
love romance. If you honestly offend me, we got some problems. But otherwise, things don't offend me much in the book. I'm like, was it fun? Did they end up together at the end? Did I want to keep turning the page? You're automatically going to be a 4 or 5 star for me. That's
Mm.
just how I rate. And some people are
Mhm.
like, this makes no sense. And I'm like, sorry, I'm reading for fun and I read really quickly. So,
Mhm.
the books that make me read every word, I was just having this discussion in video. Like when a book makes me read every word and a book that takes me 5 or 6 hours to read, I read very, very quickly, obviously. So when a book makes me read every word, that's a 6 star book for me because I just want it to last longer and longer. And like there's some historical romances who do that to me where I just wish there was more pages. Like I get mad because I'm running out of pages. I'm like, there's not enough pages of you left. Keep going. So anyway,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I wanted to put in one where I think a good place to start with Tessa Dare is.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I really, really enjoyed Romancing the Duke, which is the
Very
first
good.
one in Castles Ever After. I think
I still
I
haven't read that one.
yeah,
I
yeah.
need to
That's
read
my
that
I
second
mean,
favorite.
it's a Beauty and the
one.
Beast. It's really great. I forgot that Castles Ever After they stand pretty well alone. The only two that are even really connected is Say Yes to the Marquess and Do You Want to Start a Scandal. Those ones are loosely connected.
Well,
Oh.
Do You Want to Start a Scandal is also technically attached to Spindle
Yes,
Cove. So
exactly.
Oh,
that's
Yeah.
like
yeah,
a
it is.
crossover book. But
Hmm.
Castles Ever After is great. It's episodic. You could
Hmm.
read them individually without reading any of the other ones, and like
Yeah.
it would still make sense.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah, Romance and the Duke is my number 2 under the Duchess deal. It's
Yeah.
very
Ah,
good.
It's
It
so good.
features like LARPing,
Yes,
Regency
it
era
does.
LARPing.
I keep hearing you say that. It's
It
on
has
my
a
list,
Comic
but like
Con.
high on my list of things.
It
It's
has
high.
a Comic Con. It's
It's
Oh my god,
great.
fantastic.
that's
They have this
amazing.
whole plot to like fool people, and they're like, and they give this like long plan. She's like, "What's Plan B?" They're like, "We're just gonna throw a weasel at them." It's like they don't have a Plan B, and I laughed so hard. Like I had to
So
put the book
funny.
down and like just like think on that for a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah. Your guts just hurt while you laugh about it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's high on my list of priorities to read from her. I need to get to that one. Well, so one thing that I also think is actually a good place for people who just want to like dip their toes in. Did you guys read the holiday short story When She Was Naughty that she just put out?
No.
I haven't read it yet. I'm a
I
terrible
It's
don't
person.
I don't
oh
read
my god.
Christmas novellas, you know.
It's a short it's what? What?
We talked about this,
Oh
Bethany.
my gosh, Jen. It's also not even a novella, it's a short
Yeah.
story, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
I do think it's, like, really a really good example of what she does, like, it's super short, but it's hilarious, and
Yeah.
it's playing on the ugly Christmas sweater trope, except in this case, it's, like, an ugly Christmas waistcoat and,
Cute.
like, a prank. It's very funny,
That's cute.
but I think it gives you that flavor of, like, what sh type of stuff she writes.
Sure.
Mhm. I think at least how I describe Tessa Dare to people is that she's writing historical romance for a very modern audience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel people who live in this time period, obviously, I don't know everything about the Regency era. I've
Mhm.
never been there.
Right.
So when I'm reading the books, I can still very much relate to them because they feel like you could still take the main parts of the plot and put it in today and it would
Yeah.
Mhm.
still work.
It
Yeah.
doesn't have to
So
be perfectly historically accurate. That's something I just
Yeah.
I
get.
don't care about that
People do
either.
that all the time, and I'm like, guys, you're reading a fantasy no matter what. It's fiction. Unless,
Yeah.
Mhm.
like, I don't know, I say that all the time, but I absolutely agree with you. Tessa Dare is the number one crossover author I recommend when people are like, I like contemporary romance, but I want to try historical. And I'm like, Tessa
Mhm.
Dare, I know you're
Yeah.
sick of hearing it, but it's the truth. She has
Yeah.
vegans in her book, and she has like
Yeah.
she has, like I said, she has a Batman. She has live action role playing. Like she has things
Mhm.
you will recognize, and they're cheesy and fun, but yet the book is still so readable and
Yeah.
wonderful. So she's the number one crossover author for people. People just gotta if you like thrillers and crazy stuff, read Carrie Byrne. If you want a light, fluffy rom-com, read Tessa Dare. Like those are the places you start. So
Yeah. I'm not reading for accuracy. I just want to see a girl wear a pretty dress and have dirty sex with a duke. Am I right? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, what else do you need?
I mean, her banter. I love her banter. It's just
Mhm.
it's so good.
So good.
Okay, so Amanda, we know now your top 2 favorites. Jen, what are your faves that you've read from her?
Ooh, I don't
I
want
have
to answer
more faves.
this question. What were you gonna say?
I have more faves. Like those
Yeah, I bet you
those are
do.
just my top 2,
Well, you
but
said
also Week
2.
to Be Wicked is also up there.
Yes.
Stop
Yes,
it.
that is one of my favorites. I love A Week to Be Wicked.
Okay, let
Yes.
me see. I have one of the books open in front of me so I can read all of them at the same time. So I would say I actually really, really loved, the Duchess deal, obviously. I actually I recently read A Lady by Midnight, and I really
Oh.
love Any Duchess Will Do. So those are
I love
really
Any
up there.
Duchess Will Do,
Mhm.
but Lady by Midnight, I was like iffy about.
Yeah, I loved it.
Although
She has him
I love
strapped
the
to a
side
bed.
characters.
She has
The
him.
side characters in that book, I wanted a
Yeah.
spin-off because she has like this lesbian cousin. I just wanted to see her go around Europe solving mysteries. Like I
Yeah.
loved her intensely.
So my
I love that character, but like the main couple, I was just like, I wish you were a bit more spicy. Like I just was like waiting for him to get going.
Yeah,
Like it's not bad. It's still it's a fine book, but it wasn't my favorite of the series.
right. I really like that one because of some of the tropes in play with that one. I like the man, it's hard. I don't want to like spoil it either. But there is a scene where he is strapped to a bed so she can get some answers, and it's probably one of my favorite things. I like that it was a little bit darker twist for Tessa Dare. I like darkness and angst, so that's probably why it like spoke to me too. And I feel like Spindle Cove as a whole had a bit more darker themes just because these women are the outcasts of society, or they have, issues preventing them from being quote unquote normal for the time. And so I really like that. But yeah, and then Any Duchess Will Do is just so funny and brilliant. This like, is it a Duke or an Earl? I don't know what he is. It would be a Duke because it's Any Duchess. Duh. Okay, pardon me. It's Saturday night. But his mom, the beginning chapter of this one, the setup is that his mom has like kidnapped him and takes him to Spindle Cove, which Spindle Cove is where all the spinsters and unwanted ladies live or whatever. And um, and she's like, "You're gonna pick a woman in this tavern to be your duchess, and then I'm gonna train her up." So despite his mom, who he does love his mom, but she's a busybody, he points to the serving girl and says, "She's gonna be my duchess." And the mom's like, "Okay, she's gonna be your duchess." And so he's like, "Dang it, I didn't convince her." So he convinces the girl who she wants to start a naughty library, right? It's a naughty library. Um, she wants to start a naughty library. Ha ha ha. And and he's like, I will make sure that can happen if you will fail at being my duchess. So my mom's gonna try to teach you. I want you to fail. And then I'll be free and then it'll be perfect. Boom. So that's the setup of that book. And obviously they fall in love for real, as man would say.
Yeah, of course.
They fall in love for real. It's the best. They always end that way, and I'm always happy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Spindle Cove, which I still have 2 of the novellas left to read, and I like don't want to read them because I don't want it to be over. But yeah, those are my favorites.
I think for me, so The Duchess Steele is definitely a favorite, but I think my most favorite I've read is A Week to Be Wicked,
Yeah.
which Amanda, you mentioned. And I think part of it is I love nerdy romance, and it
Yeah.
is so great. Like the heroine is a blue stocking. She's a nerd into like what is it like? It's like archaeology or paleontology.
Yeah, it's paleontology.
Paleontology, right? And she's written this scientific paper, and she wants to go and give it at this event where only men are supposed to go, and she can't travel alone. So she convinces this rake to like take her on a trip to go deliver this scientific paper. And like along the way, of course, they fall for each other. And I think what I love so much about it is that he turns out to be a closet nerd. And so there's like nerdy bedroom banter, and it was so great. It made me laugh so much. It was like the best.
I love it. What's the name of the creature again? What is it? What's her nickname? They
Oh
call it
gosh,
something.
Oh,
forget.
geez. I don't
Bertha.
know.
It's not Bertha. Big Bertha keeps coming to my mind. That's not what it is. But anyway, the bones of this creature have like, or like
Oh,
the fossil
yeah.
has a nickname.
Yeah,
It's like
I
a
don't
Funny.
footprint.
it
It's
was
a
funny.
But
footprint. I can't remember what it is
I
either.
love it because he wants them to pretend, or she wants them to pretend to be siblings,
Mhm.
and so, but then they keep like kissing at different times. He's like, "We told people we're siblings. We can't keep making out everywhere." Love so much.
That's so good.
Oh, her books are so funny. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. They are. They're just like they make you laugh. They're feel good, fun books, good for a modern audience. And I agree. Like I think it's a great place to start if you're into
Yeah.
historicals. I I have not read as many of her books as I know for sure Amanda has or Jen. Like there's quite a few I haven't read. So far, the only one I've read of hers that I didn't super love was her other holiday novella.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
On a
not that good.
Midwinter's Eve, of Winter's
Yeah,
Eve, or
Once
whatever.
Upon a
Yeah.
Winter's Eve.
Once Upon a Winter's Eve.
It needs to be a
I
whole book. It's
That
not good
yes,
as a
needed
novella.
more.
yes.
Yes, because it was
Oh my gosh.
fascinating.
I mean, like the setup was great, but
Right.
like the
There wasn't
the
enough of
hero,
her time to
no, there
overcome
wasn't
what
enough
he
time.
did.
'Cause, like,
He
yeah, like what
fucked
he
her
did was
over bad,
perfectly
and he
Yeah.
didn't
reprehensible.
grovel.
Right.
No. And like to get over that in a night, like what he did was super reprehensible. I was like, no, nope.
Mm-mm.
Like
Nope.
you needed a whole book to
Yeah.
convincingly make that
And
work.
then there's a
Yeah,
time jump at the end, right?
a bit.
Yeah,
I
a
hate time
little.
jumps in a novella. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Mhm.
no. If you can't
No,
tell it in a novella, like you
it
can't make
shouldn't
me
be a
believe it.
novella.
This
Yeah.
is why, okay, this is why I don't read many novellas unless they're like about characters I already love. Like I'm just being honest because I so rarely have 5-star novellas. Like honestly.
It's
And
interesting.
because
See,
I'm
I
always
I
going into a
love
book for 5 stars, if I know it's not going to be a 5 star, I'm like, why am I reading it? Sorry.
okay, well, let me just say, I have had a couple of five-star romance novellas this
Yeah.
year. Like, I think they're really good ones. Like, The Earl's Christmas Pearl
Yeah.
by Megan Frampton was
Yes.
amazing. Also, Wrapped Up in You by Talia Hibbert was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, there are definitely I like. Actually,
Yeah.
it's funny. Yesterday I filmed a whole video about like romance novellas and short
Yeah.
stories, and I'm like,
Yeah.
here are 20 that I recommend.
That's
Oh
awesome.
gosh.
Well, and to eat my words, like I do plan to read the Earl's Christmas Pearl, not only because it was a
Mhm.
wonderful gift from a friend of mine, but I finally read the 4th book in this series about, so that's the last one I have to read. But again,
Mhm.
I like to read them when this is just personally, like I like to read them when it's already characters that I know, not
Mhm.
just diving into like this is a standalone Christmas novella. Like I'm
Mhm.
just not interested. But this one, I know this sister. I've been watching her and I really like her. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to read that because
Mhm.
I know it's going to be interesting. But usually, which is the case with the Winter's Eve one, that should have been a full book and it's
Yeah,
shoved
that should have
into
been a full book.
112 pages. And so I'm like,
Yep,
this
All
could
I
right,
never
agree.
be a 5 star. So that's
No.
just
Jen.
like,
Jen, I recommend out of all the Tessa Dare novellas,
uh huh.
I personally think the best one is Lord Dashwood Missed Out.
Yes. Well, I have them all,
Um,
so I'm going to read it.
it's part of Spindle Cove.
Hmm.
It is a short story, but it works as a short story. Oh wait, well, in a novella length short story. I don't think it would have worked as a longer book because of the setup.
Okay.
So that one feels like it has the right amount of pages.
Mhm.
Okay.
So if you want to try one, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that one is the best feeling novella.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think When She Was Naughty is also pretty good. It's also a short story. It's like 50 pages or something, but it works because it's like a slice of this relationship and you didn't necessarily need to see all of the lead up. So
okay.
it's kind of getting like it's basically dropping you in. They've been like having this back and forth banter all summer and like it's dropping you in at Christmas right at the big sort of climactic moment where they're finally going to realize that like he has feelings for her. So like it works. Like it's good.
How was Beauty and the Blacksmith?
Um,
Because
I
that's
think
a couple I
okay.
really want to read about, and it's a
Well, I mean, then again, you really liked Lady by Midnight.
yes.
Okay, here's the thing, because Lady by Midnight and Beauty and the Blacksmith, like it's Lady by Midnight and then Beauty and the Blacksmith. That's like the order they come out in.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted to switch those. Like I thought Lady by Midnight should be a novella, and I thought Beauty and the Blacksmith should be a full length.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's literally a blacksmith. He's covered with steam all day.
I
So we
know.
got that.
Uh-huh.
And then I just wanted to see more cute buildup with them.
Sure.
But it is like, it's not bad. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's adorable. I think it's like a little bit of a fan favorite. A lot of people really like it.
Okay.
Cool.
Because those are the two I was saying of like, I'm saving them. The Lord Dashwood and those two are the only two that I have left to read in that. And so I'm like saving them because I'm like, they're my like what Sarah McLean says, they're my like break for emergency, like save them for like a really bad day.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, if you liked, Do You Want to Start a Scandal? You're really going to like Lord Dashwood.
Oh, good.
No, not Start a Scandal. If you really liked When a Scot Ties the Knot.
Okay. Well,
yes, Lord Dashwood.
So. Like, that's the thing of like, I'm interested to hear, when we talk about the ones you least like, because I don't really have like least like. So that's why, like, even picking my favorites, I mostly picked ones different from like what you guys have said because I love everything. There isn't, for me, there isn't one where I'm like, oh, it.
Yeah.
There are some.
So that's what I want to hear. I'm here for the tea.
Yeah.
Give me some
yeah.
play.
Okay. Yeah, you'll have to do this because I think the only the only one that like I had issues with was that like Once Upon a Winter's Eve or whatever it was. Like that was the only one I didn't really like.
Okay.
So Tessa Dare has had 2 publishers.
Okay.
She used to be with Bantam for her first 2 trilogies, and then she moved over to Avon. When she moved over to Avon, I think she got a new editor, and like things just went astronomically better. Okay. So the first 2 trilogies, you are roughing it, I would say. Okay. It's a bit hit or miss, and by that I mean, like sometimes you're reading and you're like, well, this didn't make me want to scrape my eyeballs out, so like it's all right.
No.
But
the only one I've ever heard anyone even like, I hear nothing about any of them except her very first book. That's the only one I hear. Otherwise, it's poop. It's poop. Nothing.
Yeah. The first one, it's Goddess of the Hunt. That series is called The Wanton Dairy Maids. Yep. It's not good. I'll admit it. Goddess of the Hunt, I think I gave like 3 stars because it was all right. It was not her best work, but I was like, well, it's her first book. Okay, let's move on. So I went to the next one of that series, something with a siren. Surrender of a Siren. And that book made my worst books of that year list. It was so bad. And I'm like, how? How did you do it? It's literally about a girl who runs away from her own wedding. Okay. And she goes on a pirate ship. Like, oh my gosh, it sounds amazing. And I'm like, how did you fuck it up? How? And like, it just went so downhill. Like, none of the characters are great. Like, the main character, she's really spunky and not entitled, but like, just like confident. And I really, really liked her. You met her in the first book as well. And now she gets her own story. And she starts off running away from her own marriage. And you're like, whoa, I really like this girl. And she gets on the pirate ship. And I'm like, you are the dumbest human who has ever existed. Ooh, like, I don't know how you got this far in life. Like, how have you not been murdered? Like, I don't get it. Like, she's with fucking pirates, and she's just being like she gets really drunk and like flirty with them. Like, these are seafaring rapists. Oh my god, how are you not murdered? And then like the captain of the ship is like her love interest, and he's even like, what is wrong with you? These are seafaring rapists. Like, even he had the same reaction. He's like, are you fucking dumb? Like, he like loses his shit, and she like, he's mean. I'm like, no, they're pirates, lady. Like, he's just saying like, could you please not get murdered on my ship?
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that was like the tension I was dealing with. Ooh. They're not great. Oh gosh, it hurts to say, but the last book of that series, I will admit to not having completely read because it's even worse.
Wow.
No.
A Lady of Persuasion. Okay.
Lady of Persuasion. The heroine of the book just fully believes that women shouldn't enjoy sex. She's like ultra religious. Mm-hmm. So she's one of those women. She's like, I will just lay there, let my husband do his business. And then like, he has to work really hard to get her to admit she likes anything. And I'm just like, this is boring. And I'm like, why do you like her? Oh my gosh, you're just like humping a plank of wood. Like, I don't. I don't get it. Like,
That's not fun for anybody.
No.
it's just like you have the same reaction.
I'm just imagining like
Yeah.
getting splinters from vagina.
Well, you know what? I'll give her that. She won't get vagina splinters, so she's a step up from the plank of wood, but like not by much.
Sorry, the imagery was just too much.
Yeah, so that was a hot mess.
Man.
Wow. Okay.
And then the next series, the Stud Club series,
Yeah.
I just reviewed the first. I haven't read the second 2 books of it, but I just read the first book, One Dance with a Duke. Already, the name is ridiculous. I'm like, okay, what's this about?
Right.
And it's about this guy who's a duke. He's the Duke of Midnight. He shows up at parties at midnight and dances a waltz with one lady and leaves. And I'm like, this is an opportunity for greatness because it sounds so ridiculous that it's going to be good.
Uh-huh.
And then the main character girl is like really feisty, and I'm like, I'm gonna like this.
Mhm.
And then it just takes a turn, and I'm like, oh no. And he just spends like the whole book being an asshole.
Oh,
And
no.
and she's so feisty in the beginning of the book, and then she becomes less and less and less feisty by the end of the book, and she's just kind of like nothing.
Yeah.
And then her whole thing is just like, oh, he's so mean, but he's so handsome, and that's why she stays. And I'm just like, girl, no dick is that good. Like,
Oh.
you need to go.
Yeah.
I've never had a dick that good. They don't exist. Like, if he's being that horrible, just leave. Like, I don't understand. Mind you, he asked her to get married like immediately, and he's just like, no, we're doing it tomorrow. You're good. And then when he gets to the ceremony, he's like, yeah, I got things to do. 15 minutes. Can you do it in that? And like, it's just unromantic at all. It's just, oh my gosh. He really likes horses. He likes horses a lot. Not that he's like, it's not like perverse that he likes horses. I felt like I was leading you that direction, but he was just like really into horses, and like he's just terrible. I don't care how hot he is.
Yeah.
And she just like loses all of her spunk that I like, and then her brother's just a reprobate. And at the end of the book, when she kind of has like a moment where she's kind of she has like a dash of Emma from Duchess deal, and I was like, okay, like I could see like a dash of Emma. I was into it, so I ended up giving it like 2 stars because it had its moments where I was into it, but like overall, I was like, oh my gosh, the only thing I can think of is no dick is that good.
Right.
So.
Oh man.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm still tempted to read the other books though, because I'm like, how bad are they? You know? It's like,
Yeah.
I want drunk reviews of the last 2 Tessa Dares, please.
It might. I'm thinking about doing a series where, because last year I did, I got really drunk and read Dracula, so you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so much fun doing it. The video did not do well.
Oh,
it didn't do well.
I
had so much fun. So I want to do drunk classics this year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like an idea where I get drunk and read a classic, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. I'm glad that she was able to move on from this and like find a good editor and like find her.
She has a new editor, and that just changed the game, because then she starts Spindle Cove.
Yeah.
And like the first book of Spindle Cove has some problematic content, but overall very good. So I was like, okay, there was like a switch over.
Yeah.
Like I'm assuming new editor.
Yeah. I remember going from reading, because in the order that I read things, like I read the Wallflower Wager after having read, I read the first 2 in Girl Meets Duke, and then I read all of Castles Ever After and then I read Wallflower Wager, and then I went all the way back and read the first Spindle Cove. And I remember being like, whoa, this is really jarring, but I knew it would be going from their newest work to this.
Yeah.
But even then I was like, I can see the beginnings of this. Like, there's a really strong female lead, and I really liked what was happening with this scarred hero, and so there was the bones of something really good. And
like he had all this misogyny in him, but like in the end he's just kind of like,
but she impressed him.
Not, he was just like, no, like I don't care that you have a vagina, you're just stupid. like I kind of like understood him by the end of the book. He's just like a soldier, and just
that was just him.
Yeah, it's just how he is. It's not necessarily misogyny. It's just that he's just like, your vagina is irrelevant. You're just terrible.
I'm really curious. I don't know if either of you know offhand, but when was that switch? Like, what year did that first Castles Ever After book come out?
Well, no, A Night to Surrender, right? It came out in
Yeah.
2011. I have it in front of me.
Okay.
So I don't know
That's
when the one
interesting.
before that was
I
out,
think
but
the first book came out in 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
Huh.
really,
I mean, I do
6.
think
Yeah.
things have changed pretty dramatically between then and now in terms of romance and like what it's doing, and yeah,
Mhm.
but that's interesting.
Yeah.
Editors matter, I guess.
Editors matter. They really do. Like, every time I've beta read, like, I'm not saying this is for all authors, but, like, I always tell them, like, "Don't make me work so hard to like your book."
Mm-hmm.
It's, like, the number
Right.
one thing I say, because
Mhm.
it's like, if someone has to work really hard to find the tropes you're using and, like, what you're trying to get at, they don't like your book.
Right.
Don't make me
Right.
work that hard. And I feel like this new editor said the same thing. Don't make people work so hard to like your books or your characters. Like, just
That's a
write
great
likable
thing.
characters.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, that's a good idea." And then, like, went with it, and, like, success.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, right, maybe worry less about whether it's historically accurate, because like some of
Mhm.
the stuff you were talking about, it almost makes me wonder if part of it was trying to be more historically accurate of like what characters would have done, perhaps. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's, you know.
I don't need to see guys be assholes. Like, we got that today still.
Right.
Like,
Again, it goes
eh,
back to I want it to be a fantasy. Like
Mm,
he's supposed to
yeah,
be he doesn't have to be perfect, but he's supposed to be the best version of what he could be. And
yeah.
then
yeah.
you rough him up a little bit. You don't start with an asshole and try to put lipstick on it, right? Like my dad always says, you can't you put lipstick on a pig, it still stinks. But if you start with
Yeah.
something nice, then, then you can, oh, he's damaged in this way. But,
Hmm.
otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
said it a lot. Like, I can deal with someone who's grumpy, but I'm not gonna fuck with someone who's cruel for the sake of
Yeah.
being cruel.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And a good
Well, I
grumpy
mean, like
hero.
the Duchess deal is a perfect example. Like he's
Exactly.
a great grumpy hero.
He's very
Yes.
grumpy, but he's not necessarily mean to her. He's
Right.
just grumpy.
And
Yeah.
he's
He's like,
protecting
"Lady, you're
himself.
in my house." Like, he has a point.
Yeah. Yeah. You just
So
barged in.
he's like, "I am blind, and you're in my house, and I think I made you pass out because I'm ugly. Like, I'm having a day." Like, he is grumpy, but he's never, like, specifically mean to her.
Are you talking about
Yeah.
romancing the Duke? Where he's blind?
Oh, yeah. Wait. Who
We were
wasn't
saying the
blind?
Duchess deal.
No,
He's
he's
scarred.
hard.
He's not.
The
Hard, and
romancing
then
the Duke, he's
romantic is
blind. I was
blind.
like, you're
Honestly,
Yeah, I know.
honestly,
I was like, did I miss that? Like,
yeah,
no.
that's what he's
Honestly,
confused.
before I started the video, I was just like, I'm not gonna get drunky pants, and then I had half a bottle of wine. So I'm gonna confuse some things. But honestly, I think the lead character, the male romantic hero in Duchess Deal and Romancing the Duke, is the same guy.
Kind of.
They're remarkably similar people, so that's why they're getting crossed, because they both have facial scars and they're both
Right.
grumpy and like, I'm a monster.
The
They're
one in
both the
romancing
same.
the Duke, the one in romancing the Duke is just a sad, forlorn man, though, because his whole life just
Mhm.
went to hell. Where at least in the Duchess deal, he's still running his estate. He just needs
Yeah.
a wife.
yeah.
He's Batman.
They're just like, they're both ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
They're the same character. I like it.
That's so funny.
But anyway.
Yeah, so I think we've covered a lot of ground. We've got good places to start. Maybe not so good places to start. Like, don't start chronologically.
Just pretend, seriously, just
Yeah.
pretend the first two trilogies don't exist
Don't exist.
and start with Spindle Cove if you want to start at the beginning. Otherwise, you can start anywhere. That's the beauty of historical romance.
Yeah,
Like there's
'cause
very few historical romances where you need to read in order. Like the very few.
That's true.
So,
Spindle Cove is a bit more in order because these characters all interact with each other.
true.
Yeah.
And
And
then
the men show up in the first book because that
Mhm.
group of guys all like show up together. So
yeah.
Although
And
I've
then
read some of them out of order and it's been fine.
right.
yeah, I mean it's still fairly episodic. I think the story is a bit richer if you read it in order, but you could read it out of order and like you'll get it. It's not so complex that you're not going to figure out who's who. Like it's a historical rom-com. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yep.
I'm just a completionist. So, and people always ask me, they're like, "Oh, can I read it out of order?" And I'm always like, "Lady, you can do whatever you want, but if you need to know, just Google it." Not that
Yeah.
I feel like a bad YouTuber when I say that, but when I'm feeling sassy, I'm like, "So the time it took you to message me and then wait for me to reply to you, you could have typed this into Google."
Yeah. Well,
But
it's
I'm a
sort of like
booktuber. I'm happy.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's
They
sort
just
of
really
like
want your opinion on it. So
I
I like,
know.
they're like, I
yeah.
trust your opinion. You're not going to steal
I
me
know.
wrong. But Google's full of weirdos.
Right.
Yep.
When it says number 1, number 2, number 3. Sorry.
I guess I don't mind it as much if it's something like that in the
Oh,
comments.
no. No.
What I think what for me it's more when I get Instagram messages or comments where it's like, "Hey, can you recommend these like completely unrelated kinds of books to me?" And not even like, "Hey, could you maybe do a video about this?" But like, "Hey, can you tell me what I should read for these things?" I'm like, "No,
Yeah,
no."
exactly. I've started, Bethany, I straight up just self-promote. I'm like, I actually did a trope video about this. You can find it in my
Mhm.
recommendations. And I move along because
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not giving you personal recommendations. I'm sorry. That's why I have an
Mhm.
entire channel with over 100 recommendation videos
Mhm.
because I
Yeah.
probably made it. But I mean,
Yeah, luckily, people don't really ask me for recommendations. I think I'm just very opinionated in my
right.
videos.
I
I'm very
know how you
loud.
feel.
You know how I feel about things.
Yeah.
I've only like a few, but these are like people that like consistently comment on my
Mhm.
videos. So like I've been talking to them probably for like a year. So I'm like, yeah, I'll give you like a personal recommendation. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Like when
But
you
if it's
know
just some
somebody well,
Yahoo, I'm
it's
just
like
like,
yeah, it's like out of the blue. I'm like, no.
Right.
yeah. If it's someone like, oh, I know who you are, you comment on a lot of my videos. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting. Cool. Well, any last thoughts on Tessa Dare? What I don't
Well,
know.
at the end of the day, I would say this, like, if we haven't convinced you enough with our gushing, like it's very charming books. The ones we've mentioned as our favorite, they're very charming, they're very sweet, they're steamy still, they're fun.
Mhm.
There's nothing in the ones that we recommend really that like there's not really are there any with trigger warnings? There may be some. Are there
Yeah,
any with trigger warnings?
the latest one has like
Wallflower
Yes.
Wager.
flower
Right. Yep. I knew
There's
there was something.
yeah.
grooming, childhood, sexual grooming,
Yeah.
essentially.
I mean, it's not like explicit on the page, but it
Right.
is
But you know what's happening.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I knew there was something to mention, so I was like, but for the most part, you're gonna be pretty safe going into a test
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
If you're someone
Yeah.
with trigger warnings, I always say if you know you have them, look it up. But otherwise, you
Yeah.
should be pretty safe.
Well, I don't know. I think maybe any Duchess will do because that's like death of a child.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay.
But other than that, like there's no like real sexual assault content, I would
Yeah,
say.
no.
Besides
They're
like
feel
off
good.
the page and Wallflower Wager.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're pretty
Yeah,
fluffy.
they're pretty fun.
So
They're like feel good,
They're
fun,
chocolate
funny.
mousse. They're rich and delicious and
mhm.
just airy at the same time. So
Yeah. That's what I like to say, like, guys are. I'm like, they're chocolate lava cakes. They're hot on the outside and goo on the inside, and I like them.
yes.
I love it. So everybody should just go read Tessa Dare. If you haven't already, we've given you some good places to start. Thank you guys. It was very helpful and hopefully all of you guys enjoyed the conversation. Again, this has been Chapter 3 Podcast and I'm your host Bethany. You can follow us on Twitter at Chapter 3 Podcast and you can also find me on YouTube at Beautifully Bookish Bethany talking about even more books. The next episode will be available in 2 weeks and this episode's bonus content with our guests will be available to patrons in the next few days. Thanks for listening.